Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutch Gaming and a new video on the channel testing out Delirium in 3.24. The idea was originally to do some ultimatum, but I decided I'd kind of had enough of it from my Mage Blood farm, and apparently Delirium is in the gutter, so I thought why not try this as a mechanic. We'll go through the Atlas chain in a moment, but I'm essentially only taking Delirium as a money-making league mechanic because I want to see really what this is like at the moment, and I don't want to pad results with other things. We will be taking our usual corpse nodes because I like to craft and the corpses sell fairly well in bulk. We're going to take some shrines to make it easier and then just take some map nodes and Exarch altar nodes to complete the strategy. Now originally this was going to be a scour and go strategy, but I really struggled to sustain in my first 10 maps, so I decided to start running them Alch and go, and then after that I just about sustained my maps. The reason for Delirium is it is a mechanic that I really like running, but from day one Delirium orbs have just not been worth any money. Simulacrums are not too bad, but overall, you just can't make the currency that you could in other leagues because Delirium orbs are just not in demand at all. However, with some of the new scarabs, it is easy to get a lot of rewards. So with a little bit of luck, a bit like playing a slot machine, you can get big returns with Delirium. Even if you don't, I think we're still going to get decent enough returns to make it worthwhile. And on a decked out character, it is one of the easiest strategies because you're not putting too much in the map to make it difficult. We're going to be going for Strand as our map of choice because it's nice and linear, which means you get a decent layer and level of Delirium rewards once you get to the end and kill the boss. If you have a very good character, I'd recommend doing Tropical Islands, which is here, because it is even longer, so you will get more Simulacrum Splinters doing Tropical Islands, so your profit should be better overall. The main reason I'm not running it is my character, which is Lightning Strike, doesn't want obstacles in a map, and Tropical Island is full of trees, which gets in around my Lightning Strike projectiles. It just gets a little bit annoying. Strand is super open and very linear, so I do like it as a map. In terms of the Scarab, it's a very simple setup. We're just taking 8% increased quantity on the map device. We're running 2 Scarab of Paranoias, which essentially add 2 additional types of rewards. So as soon as you start your map where you normally have 1 Delirium reward, you're going to have 5. And by the time you get to the end, you're going to have 9, sometimes even more because of the nodes we take on the tree. And then we're going to have 1 Scarab of Mania, which makes the meter fill up 100% faster. I did try 2 of these, but when you're not juicing and putting loads into your maps, it really didn't make a difference. I maybe got 1 layer of rewards extra on some maps, and some I didn't get any at all. The reason is, as you progress through the layers, they take longer to fill up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fill up fairly quickly, then they get slower. And this 100% once you get to sort of layers 8 and 9 doesn't do very much when you're not putting more mechanics into the map. So these are cheap scarabs. I did buy these a couple of days ago, but each of these were 1 divine for 110 when I purchased them. And we're going to use 2 of the Paranoia and 1 of the Mania, and we're going to run 50 maps. So it's about 1.5 divines investment on scarabs. You shouldn't have to buy many maps. Maybe I got lucky self-sustaining. So let's say you have to buy 20 maps at say 6 chaos each. It's still not going to break the bank. That's going to put the investment up to about 2.5 divines for 50 maps. And then you just need some alks and some scours. Now, I'm going to try and be careful about what I pick up when I run these maps, because I do find when you use something like Wealthy Exile to track your wealth, it does cover everything. And honestly, you kind of look at it and go, oh, 50 divines, but then by the end of what you've sold, you've only got 35 divines in your stash. So I'm not going to be picking up any maps that are not Guardian maps, T17s, or my map of choice, which is Strand. So because of that, we're taking Singular Focus. But we will get maps through Delirium as we go along, and I'm not going to pick up any of the T16s because I know I'm not going to sell them. I'm only going to pick up corpses that are worth 5C or more. So hopefully by the end of it, 90% of the loot that we pick up, we can sell really easily. To make this even fairer, I'm going to have a selling session when I finish the 50 maps that I'm going to set aside an hour to do. Anything I haven't been able to sell in that hour is just going to get put into another tab and not counted towards the profits. So what you'll have at the end of this video is 50 map sample. I'll break down how much profit I got per map rather than per hour because everyone runs maps at a different pace. We're going to strip out anything that doesn't sell within the hour, and then that's going to give you an overall income for the 50 maps and how much per map it's going to be. If you're interested in how long these maps take, my character that's not mega quick but fairly fast does these between 2 to 2.5 minutes, including selecting the mods before you go into the map. But I would set a time at say 3 minutes. That gives you, a few seconds to stash loot. I would say if you're doing this on a fairly decent character, you should be looking to turn over around 20 maps an hour. Now, I've already run my first 49 maps. We'll run the last one together. I did do the first one with commentary, but I've been quite under the weather again. I think I've just had COVID that's hung around forever. So it really didn't come across well on the recording. I was coughing a lot and clearing my throat. Not what people want to listen to. So we'll do the last map instead as a showcase. So I'm not going to ruin it by showing you my dump tabs. So we will just out this map. Make sure it's one I can run. It is. And we'll go and we'll run it. As usual, because we're trying to get corpses and all flames, I want to put anything that is not going to brick the map, but makes it more difficult up here. So have we got, so these shouldn't fire projectiles as far as I'm aware, so we can put +7 projectiles up there. We don't want spawner meteor, so we'll bring that down here. But I've given myself probably the best chance, other than increased AoE, which I don't really want, of getting some decent drops. I haven't used embers from any of the maps. I've just been collecting them to sell, but if you want, you can obviously use embers. And then we've got our tree set up, so it's 100% chance for Deli, so we don't need a scarab for that. You're just going to run through the mirror. I tend to hang back for a second because these won't start ticking over until the first set of Delirium mobs spawn. It doesn't really matter for a full map, but I like to get as much value as I can out of it. And then you're just running through, running over any of the Delirium bubbles that you can, picking up your strand maps, checking any altars. So we can take this, for example, because I'm ailment immune, which will give us more quants, but it's neither here nor there really for this strategy. We can take some orb regrets from the boss. They're not exactly worth tons of currency. We'll take our altar because we've got those on the tree. And the maps are fairly straightforward, and if I'm honest, a little bit unexciting because you really don't do very much in the maps. You just run through. If you just like blasting, hack and slash, killing stuff, this is quite good fun, and it is quite exciting when you do get a big Deli reward explosion at the end of your map. So at the moment, we have got currency as one of our main ones, so that's nice. Gives us a good chance of getting divines, and I have had a few raw divines, which we'll go through when we go to the loot breakdown. So not had many corpses, which is a surprise. I did think we'd actually get quite a few, but we don't have any. Don't think any of that is worth taking. So we'll keep going through. We'll pick up our ambush scarab. And once you get to 7, that's kind of when you can just go to the boss, because you're very unlikely to get to 9 rewards. So we'll go in. Find the boss. There he is. Then you can clear some of these if you want, but it doesn't make too much difference. And then just end the delirium. Go and pick up our massive 3 orbs of regret, and then we'll see what loot we get at the end. A bit unlucky considering we've got currency as a reward. So we've got 37 splinters, the usual few delirium orbs. So this was a very bad loot explosion, but I can't say whether we're going to be good or not because it's obviously a live showcase. No 20% gems. With cluster jewels, if they show purple, on my filter that normally means they're kind of the lower tier cluster jewels and are not worth picking up. They're going to be around 5C. If they're a different color, they're going to be like 10C to 20C. I'll pick that up for now and put it in the stash, but normally for like the 5C clusters, I won't bother because I'm not going to sell them. And then I'll just go and dump all this in the stash. We'll go and top up the loot, and then I'll be back with you shortly. So what I'll look at before we go and sell the loot is what Wealthy Exile says we've got in our 50 map. So this is about 2.5 hours worth of mapping. The cost was 1.5 divines. I started with around 10 strand maps, and that's what I got left in my stash. So we basically exactly sustained the maps. As I say, knock another divine off this if you feel like you want to buy your maps. But overall, the profit is 35.5 divines on what Wealthy Exile says we've got. So looking in terms of a loot breakdown at 92 chaos per map, and the maps are run between 2 to 3 minutes, is 0.7 divines per map. If we were to look at it at an hourly rate based on 20 maps, you're looking at around 14 divines per hour. Obviously, this isn't going to be the case because not all this stuff is going to sell. Before I go and look to sell the loot, I just want to pull out 2 things. Now, Deli orbs are in the gutter price-wise, but you drop an absolute ton of them with the scarabs. If we go into Delirium orbs here, you can see the amount we've got here. Now, I've already totted all these orbs up. We've got 172 from 50 maps. So that's about 3.5 Delirium orbs per map. Simulacrums are also not too bad price-wise because not many people are running Delirium. So we can see here our Deli orbs are 4.9 divines and our simulacrums are 2.3. So that's over 7 divines for just those 2 items that you're only going to get doing Delirium, and they're guaranteed pretty much. With the layers of reward scarab and the fact we're getting to 8 to 9 rewards every time, you are going to drop loads of Delirium orbs, and they should still sell decently in bulk. People still seem to be using them. I have no idea whether they're just re-rolling them into the scarab ones, but they do definitely seem to be selling. And then the last thing to look at before we go and sell stuff is coffins. So I've tried to make it that I've only picked up coffins that I think are going to sell in bulk. It might be that I'm wrong on some of them, but I think they're going to be decently priced. And if we have a look here, you can see I haven't got a load of different types. I've picked up Parandus ones. They're the only unique ones I've picked up. I've picked up the Grave Row, Grave Column, Fracture, things like that. Most of the scarcer and only a few of the increased chance, because not many of them are worth currency. Sorry if you can hear the cat in the background. So we're going to go and try and sell everything we can in 1 hour. Then I'll be back with you and tell you exactly what we've got in terms of currency, and then we'll close out the video. So we are back after a selling session, and that was not a whole lot of fun. So let's go over the currency tab at the moment and what we've still got left. So in terms of what we've sold, we've not done too bad. We have liquidated more than I thought we would because there's lots of stuff that wasn't priced on Wealthy Exile. So we've got 11 Raw Divines and then 1,400 Chaos, which is just over 10 Divines worth of currency. So in terms of stuff we're able to liquidate, we've got 21 Divines back from our 2.5 hours. If we take away our expenditure, you're talking about 19 Divines over 2.5 hours. So probably 7 to 8 Divines profit from what we've sold. So not terrible, but there were issues with the strategy all over the place, and I wouldn't recommend it, which I'm going to go over in a moment. In terms of what we still got, I've not sold many corpses. I'll be honest, I got bored pricing them up, and even the ones I thought would fly off the shelf haven't. So these modified tier ratings, for example, just priced in bulk at 5, not had any whispers. And if we go and look in my dump tab, I have sold most of the stuff. You get loads of smatterings of loads of different things, which I'll come on to in a moment. But I think I've pulled out the valuable stuff and sold it. There's probably a few bits here and there I can price up and sell, but I've priced most stuff. We've just got some cluster jewels left to sell, some corpses, and some deli orbs, which we will come back to. So overall, how would I rate the strategy? Well, let's take each bit step by step. So let's firstly look at red altars. These, I think, are always good. The red currencies, not the lessers so much now, but the greaters and the grand sell very easily and very quickly in bulk. You're also going to get things like decent scarabs, decent divination cards, and obviously raw chaos, raw unmakings, raw gem cutters prisms that all sell very easily. And you can, just liquidate them almost straight away. This is something I would definitely put in a strategy if I wanted to do something that mapped fairly quickly, and you can get some altars into the map. You can turn over some decent currency. Now let's move to something that takes up a lot of nodes, and that's corpse nodes. And this time I really didn't find it was worthwhile. There's two reasons. Firstly, you do have to stop and read them every map because there are lots now that just aren't worth currency, and you don't want to get tons and tons of stuff in your stash tab that isn't sellable, because when it comes to sorting those corpses, it takes time. The second is, I actually thought, as I mentioned earlier, that we would sell more coffins than we have. So these, for example, Chaos is scarcer at 6 each, not had any whispers. These Demon Corpse effect ones, I thought I would get whispers at 9C, not had any. As I mentioned, we've got all of these in our 5C tab. They've not sold either. I have sold some coffins. I've probably sold maybe a Divine's worth of coffins. But when you've got a quad tab that might have 80 coffins in and you think you've only picked up ones that are worthwhile, it takes a long time to sort through all those in price, and I honestly don't think it's worth it. All Flames is a bit easier because there's a few that are worth currency and the rest aren't worth picking up. So that has made it a little easier. I picked up maybe 4 or 5 decent All Flames and made a Divine off of them. I think those are probably worth investing a few points into, but in terms of the corpses, I really didn't feel it was very worthwhile. In terms of shrines, they're obviously there just to buff myself to get through the map easier, do some more damage, and then the map nodes are there just for map sustain. So let's move on to Delirium. Before I went to sell the items, we went through the overview of what everything was worth, and it looked like it might be worthwhile doing if you enjoy Delirium as a strategy on its own, but after trying to sell the loot, I really don't think it's worth it. So the first thing is cluster jewels. You will drop a load of cluster jewels that are all worth between probably 6 to 15 chaos, and they sell quite quickly and is worth doing, but they are individual trades that you're going to be doing realistically for between 6 to 15 chaos, and the majority of them are between 6 to 10. Again, is that worth it when you might be doing a strategy that turns over 10 Divines worth of loot an hour that's actually easy to sell? And then the main problem is Delirium orbs. You drop an absolute ton, but because of that, they're not worth very much. I've stuck these orbs in 5 chaos tabs. None of them have moved. I've priced them up around 35 to 36 orbs for 1 divine. So you're looking at less than 4 chaos per orb. And I've had 1 whisper and I've sold 1 lot for 1 divine. Now the idea of these videos is we're not going to use bulk trading through TFT or Wealthy Exile because I want to represent the most realistic picture for the majority of players, and a lot of them don't use those external applications. So I'm still sitting here waiting for my Delirium mobs to sell. As I said, I've sold 1 divine's worth so far, and we've probably got, at these prices, 3 to 4 divines left. And the issue you are going to have if you don't want to use other trade sites is people don't really buy in chaos. They buy in divines, and it is a lot of orbs for 1 divine. You're talking, 30 to 40 depending on the orb. And you might not get that many of them. You might have 35 of 2 to 3 different types. And then the rest you're going to struggle to sell. And I honestly think people are just buying them to flip them into the scarab one. I can't see any purpose or reason to run any of the other Delirium orbs. So overall, the strategy was fun to run. The selling was not fun in the slightest. I hit an hour and I still hadn't cleared out my stash. And it is for various reasons. 1, corpses are a pain in the bum to sort and sell. 2, things like Delirium, same with Ultimatum, same with Ritual. You pick up lots of different bits that are quite hard to sell when you don't have a load of them. So you either have to build them up and sell them, or you sell them in bulk for maybe a fraction of what they're actually worth. So what I'm going to take away from it, and I would if I was you as well, is don't take things like Wealthy Exile as gospel, because nearly every strategy will tell you that it's 10 plus divines an hour, but that stuff might be very difficult to sell, or might take you hours to sell all of it, and then that really you need to include in the time for your farming. So if you've got a 3-hour strategy that sent you 30 divines, but it takes you another 3 hours to sell it, then you need to half the amount you're making, because that time is still time spent selling. And for me, what I've learned from my strategy is corpses, probably not worth it considering the amount of points it takes, unless you're going to craft. If you're going to craft, I would always take these because they are annoying to sell. I imagine they're equally as annoying to buy because of the amount of whispers that you have to send. So if you're going to craft yourself, I would include the graveyard nodes. If you're not, don't bother. Delirium, definitely on its own, not worth it. Maybe in T17s just to juice the map, it's probably something that's worthwhile because the scarabs are very cheap and it does bring a lot of juice to the map. But as a mechanic on its own, definitely not worth it. And it's reaffirmed to me that altars are definitely always worth taking and adding in if you are using that influence, because they will bring you currency in the long run. And for red altars, all the stuff sells very, very quickly. That's kind of it for the video. Again, would I recommend it? 100% not, but I've tested it so you don't have to. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.